I wonder, I might need to turn that up a little bit before we get started. Test, 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 test. That's probably going to be good. Cool. All right. So good afternoon, early evening, everybody. Just got out of a cold shower. So I'm feeling Sprite. But so welcome everybody to my channel. I'm Jeremy McMahon, and I'll be guiding you through some meditation today. If you're enjoying the content that I'm producing, if you could please like and subscribe to the channel, that would be awesome. Also, I am available for private sessions. I generally charge for private meditation sessions if you're interested in deepening your practice. I generally charge about $50 an hour for an hour session, but I'm open to negotiation, so just reach out. And also I accept donations too, so if you'd like to donate something, you can feel free to Venmo me. My Venmo information is in the description, or you could use PayPal as well with just my email address. So anyway, let's light the incense first before we jump into this topic today that we're going to be talking about. So a friend of mine asked me to share my thoughts on transcendental meditation, or TM as it's also commonly referred to. And generally, it's a great question to talk, and it's a great thing to talk about because that's really the other main form of meditation that you see a lot these days in the West. We have mindfulness meditation over here, which we are generally, would fall under the category of mindfulness, what we're doing. And then there's transcendental meditation over here. And so what's the difference between the two, and what are the similarities? Well, one of the main differences between the two starting off, actually, before I start off, let me just say, I am going to share my opinions on transcendental meditation, but I will admit I'm inherently biased towards mindfulness meditation because it's Buddhist, and I am a Buddhist. But also, so this is just going to be my opinion. I've never practiced transcendental meditation. So I'm only going off of what I've heard about it. It's nothing based off of my personal experience, and just based off what other people have told me about it and what I've read about it. Just my opinion. So now that that's out of the way, I'll jump into it. A big difference between transcendental meditation and between transcendental meditation and mindfulness meditation is that mindfulness meditation generally comes out of the Buddhist tradition. And then transcendental meditation very much comes out of the Hindu tradition. And so transcendental meditation was founded by, let me look, I can never remember these names. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi is the guy, and he's coming from a Hindu background, essentially. More specifically, a Vedantic background. And now, so the thing with a lot of these Hindu guys, Hinduism loves to claim that they're the oldest religion in the universe, or in the world, that they've been around longer than any other religion. And I'm like, it might stem back far, but it's Hinduism itself, the term is a colonialist term that was given to religious traditions that didn't have, a specific founder like Islam or Buddhism or Christianity when the British encountered India. So it's kind of a catch-all phrase. And within that, there's been developments within the Hindu tradition, and it's certainly changed, It's so a lot of Vedantic thought, which is where a lot of modern kind of Hindu, this more sort of philosophical Hinduism and meditation practices come about more around the 18th or 19th centuries. And actually, a lot of the time, it's a response to colonialism. And so they're sort of unifying, against the Christian British oppressors there. And they're kind of borrowing things and from them and flipping it around and making it, their own. And so that's what a lot of these kind of more, modern Hindu strands that we see today, like the Hare Krishnas and certainly Transcendental Meditation, those are kind of where its roots are, that time period. And so Transcendental Meditation really takes off in the 50s and the 60s. The Maharishi, I don't know specifically, but I'm gathering, for some reason, whether he was told to or whether he just decided, his mission became to teach the West how to meditate. And of course, this is the Maharishi that the Beatles hung out with and stuff, right? So he makes his inways into Western culture, into Western society, and starts teaching this Transcendental Meditation technique. The thing that is unique when he starts teaching the Transcendental Meditation technique to Westerners is that prior to this, meditation has always been thought of in the Western consciousness as something that is very hard to do. And barely anybody meditates. It's something that, it's just a weird thing that no one would do, and it's really, really, really hard. Transcendental Meditation flips that around. They can say, no, meditation is easy. Anybody can do it. You can transcend on your first time meditating. You can experience that transcendental state on your first time meditating. And so that's kind of causes a shift to making meditation actually, just in general, more mainstream. And mindfulness kind of blows up a bit later after that. And Transcendental Meditation is particularly big in the 60s, 70s, 80s. And seemingly, I don't know, I've heard people talk about it, how it's died down a lot. But, I was listening to a podcast with a guy talking about meditation, and he was like, well, no one talks about Transcendental Meditation anymore. You just hear about mindfulness. I'm like, well, you don't hang out with young hipsters that watch David Lynch movies, because I've met a lot of people that started doing Transcendental Meditation because of David Lynch. And of course, David Lynch, as I've said before, he's, an artistic hero of mine because of his way to incorporate, the sort of meditation experience into cinema. But I don't practice Transcendental Meditation, and I've never really felt inclined to because of him. So yeah, that's kind of this the background of Transcendental Meditation, and then what is the actual practice of Transcendental Meditation? So the actual practice is you have to take a Transcendental Meditation training course, which I don't think is very long. I think it's a few days. But it does cost, I think it costs around $1,000. And that's something that Transcendental Meditation gets criticized for, is the cost. But that's not really my problem with it. Or I don't even know if I actually have a problem with it. But I'll explain the price thing later. Anyway, so you go to the course, and basically you have a Transcendental Meditation teacher that gives you a mantra. And we've discussed mantras a bit on the channel, but this mantra, well, I don't know what they are because they're supposed to be secret. What I've heard is that there's actually only 54 of them, and you're just kind of given one, and the teacher there's a Transcendental Meditation training specific for teachers, and they would, use their kind of insight, I guess, into the person, giving them a mantra that, they think would be good for them. And that's not, honestly, that's not really that different from most, meditation, Buddhism, Hinduism things where you go see a teacher and you kind of go through like a ceremony, an initiation ceremony, and they've kind of just made it more like westernized, I guess, or just like simplified it down. But I think it's like, that's what's confusing to people too about it, because they're like, why do I gotta go pay $1,000 so somebody can give me a mantra? Which is like fair. But supposedly, it creates this kind of ritual around it, and from what people that do transcendental meditation tell me, it does seemingly feel really powerful, when they receive their mantra. And actually, this person that was telling me about it, she said that when, she got the mantra, right? And this idea, too, with transcendental meditation is, boom, you go into bliss. You drop out, you focus on this mantra in your mind, and then you experience bliss. And so she was saying, oh yeah, it was kind of like easier for me to attain these blissful states like right after the meditation, or right after I got the mantra, and now it's kind of gotten a bit harder to achieve that transcendental state. So that's the kind of process of it. So you are focusing on a mantra in your mind, and to me, again, I've never done it, so I don't really know. But what it sounds like to me is pretty similar to like when we're focusing on the breath. And just the whole idea, is you focus on the breath. But I think for them, it's like you really you're concentrating on the mantra, and that's all you need to focus on. For us, it's a slightly different, I guess, because we're going in expecting to be distracted. Like we're looking for those moments that we're distracted. It's not like, oh, we're trying to focus on the breath so much. It's like, no, we're going to try to focus on the breath and see the moments that we're distracted. So I guess that's a kind of a big difference. But like the idea too is like, it's similar in that it's like you're putting your attention on one thing, and through this attention on one thing, it will, lead to they say a transcendental state. So the price, everybody, when they talk about transcendental meditation, they always talk about the price and how expensive it is. And it's expensive, and like, you can learn how to meditate, practice mindfulness for free. You can just watch me. I'll teach you. But the thing is, I don't have so much of a problem with it because, like, it's $1,000, and honestly, like, if you go on a Buddhist retreat, it's probably going to cost that much, or somewhere around that. People spend way more money on, like, a week-long Buddhist retreat than $1,000. So, what makes one better than the other? And the thing with the transcendental meditation, too, is, like, you only need the training once, they say. You only go and get your mantra once, and you don't have to pay for it again. Also, there's the David Lynch Foundation, which is his non-profit organization, which basically pays for people to take the Transcendental Meditation course. And I think you can just apply online. I'm not sure of the process, but I know somebody who was a intern at the Rubin Museum, where I used to work, who did it, and he like signed up and got the scholarship, and they paid for him to do the course. So so to me, again, the price isn't that big of a deal, and if it's like the money really is an issue, there's possible ways for you to get that money to take that course if that's what you want to do. Now, I guess the difference and why I ultimately feel that mindfulness meditation is superior, and why I honestly feel that Buddhism is superior. I'm a Buddhist, I'm going to say it, at least when it comes to the philosophical stuff, is that and again, this is a Buddhist point of view, and maybe the Hindus would disagree with me. And if somebody wants to disagree and open up a conversation, I'm more than willing to have a conversation with people about it because I want to know. But yeah, so the main difference is that Transcendental meditation and Vedantic practice and meditation ultimately seeks to achieve states of bliss, which is great. Bliss is great. Who doesn't like bliss? But Buddhism ultimately, through Buddhism you will reach those stages of bliss, but you actually have to go beyond those stages of bliss to actually understand true reality. And so that is kind of why I've opted for mindfulness meditation. Well, I think that's why. I don't know. I've just always liked Buddhism too. It's probably my karma. But yeah. So that's basically, I think that's all that I really have to say about Transcendental meditation and my thoughts and feelings on it. So, honestly, whatever. If it works good for you and it calms down your stress and it makes you a better person and it enriches your life, fantastic. Keep doing it. But yeah, for me, mindfulness meditation is the way to go. So with that, why don't we practice some mindfulness meditation? We'll start off with our typical body scan, if you've been here before. So we're going to just move our attention to various places in the body. It should take about 10 minutes. You want to take a comfortable seat, either cross-legged on the floor or in a bed like I am, or if you're sitting in a chair, I would just make sure that your feet are firmly planted on the ground. Also, you can feel free to meditate with your eyes open or closed, whatever works for you. Okay. All right. So here we go. Now, we're going to move our awareness to our feet. Just notice how our feet feel right now in this moment. Maybe they feel warm. Maybe they feel cold. Maybe you notice a particular texture touching your feet. However your feet feel right now, just become aware of them and notice that part of your body. Now, we're going to move our attention up to our feet, up to our seat. Noticing where our body comes in contact with either the ground or the chair. Notice how you were held up and supported during your practice. Now, we're going to move our attention up to our belly. Begin to notice its subtle movements as it follows the breath. Now we'll move our attention up to our heart, to that space in the middle of our chest. Just feel this part of your body and become aware of it. Now, we're going to move our awareness to our shoulders, just feeling this part of our body. Just notice your shoulders and become aware of them. Now we'll move our attention to the back of the head, feeling a part of our body we don't often think about. All right, now we'll move our attention back down to our feet, noticing the textures. Now we'll move our awareness up to our seat, feeling the support. Now we'll move our awareness up to our bellies, noticing the subtle movements. Now we'll move our awareness up to our heart, feeling that space in the middle of our chest. Now we'll move our attention to our shoulders, becoming aware of that part of our body. Now we'll move our attention to the back of the head. All right, now we'll move our attention back down to our feet. Now we'll move our awareness up to our seat. Now we'll move our awareness up to our belly. Next, we'll move our attention up to our heart. Now, we'll move our attention to our shoulders. Now, we will move our attention to the back of the head. All right, in just a moment I will ring the bell, ending our first round of meditation. All right, let's take a little break. Looks like somebody wrote a comment, so I'll address that at the end. But again, if you have any comments or questions for me, feel free to put them in the chat and I'll answer them at the end of the meditation. Oh, I don't know what it is. My back is stiff today. But yeah, why don't we move on to round 2? So this time we're going to be focusing on our breath. So wherever you feel the breath strongest in your body. For some that would be your chest, others your belly, some the tip of the nostrils. And we're just going to spend our time watching the breath. You don't have to change anything about the breath, we're just going to watch it. And the whole rule here is that, once you notice that you're no longer watching your breath, gently bring your attention back to it. You may have to do this once, you may have to do this 5 times, you may have to do it 1,000 times. But again and again, every time you notice that you're no longer watching the breath, gently bring it back. This one will last about 4 minutes. So here we go. Now, we're going to move our attention to our breath. You don't have to change anything about your breathing. Just watch its natural movements. And if a thought or feeling arises and you get distracted, just recognize that. Gently bring your attention back to the breath. And if a memory from the past or a plan for the future comes and takes you away, that's truly okay. Just recognize that you've been distracted and gently bring your attention back to the breath. And if you get distracted, no longer watching your breath, that is truly okay. Just recognize that you've been distracted and gently bring your attention back to the breath. All right, in just a moment I will ring the bell, ending our second round of meditation. Oh, chat's blowing up. Too bad I can't read it from here. Okay. It's just a quick break. So now this round we are going to again focus on our breath for about 3 to 4 minutes. This time I will not guide you. You will be on your own. So in this case, again, the rules are the same. Just follow the breath. And once you notice you're distracted, just recognize that you've been distracted. Don't beat yourself up. Don't judge yourself. But then bring your attention back to the breath. All right, here we go. right, in just a moment I will ring the bell. Once I ring the bell, I invite you all to join me in a bow, dedicating the merit we've accrued today to the benefit of all sentient beings. Okay, let's check out this chat. So, love the vibe. Thanks, Jason. He's the one that asked me the question about transcendental meditation. Bad Cat Family. That was an interesting lecture. I love how you explain things because you made it accessible to people like me with no background. Thank you. Thank you, Nina. I mean, to be honest, I got pretty used to that at the Rubin because, like, I'd have to explain, I'd have different people coming in with different idea, I have people come into the museum that didn't even know that the Buddha was like an actual person that lived, and then, scholars to talk, come in, everything. So yeah, I mean, thank you, because that's something I've definitely tried to work on, is when I talk about these things, trying to make it as accessible for everybody, no matter what your prior knowledge base is. So thanks. Thank you, Nina. I do really appreciate that. And then, how do you suggest beginners deal with distractions? Try to minimize them or make it part of your practice? I'd say both. Because I mean, like I've said before, you kind of like go in expecting to be distracted. Like, you're gonna get distracted, and no matter how ideal the situation is, like, even if you were in a perfect cube with like no sound, the perfect temperature, everything was absolutely perfect, your mind will distract you then, and it's not that different really from something external distracting you from something internal distracting you. So I would just say, I think it's good to try to minimize those distractions, and if you're talking about the cats getting up all in your grill while you're meditating, yeah, maybe you want to put them in another room so they're not climbing all over you. But, on the other hand, just realize that no matter what, the perfect environment for meditation does not exist. I mean, maybe a cave in the Himalayas, but then it's going to be cold, and you're going to be all alone. So, nothing is truly ideal. But yeah, I would just say that. Try to minimize what distractions you can, and, but don't let the other ones really get in your way, and don't let it bother you, like you probably heard, I got to meditate with, sirens all the time. Nina says she's definitely talking about the cats. Yeah, put them in another room. When Slugger was up here, my cat, I'd meditate, and I wouldn't meditate with him in the room. I'd just put him out. You're not a hero for meditating with cats in the room. And then Keith asks, how often do you recommend meeting for how long each, how often do you recommend meditating for how long each time? I mean, I think the goal, at least how I teach it, the goal is always to do it every day. Whether you do it every day or not, I try to do it every day, and, I miss days. It happens. So, that's the thing. And so, in terms of what amount of time to meditate, I always recommend the amount of time that you think you could do every day, So if you're, because for me, what I'm trying to ingrain in people is a habit, a meditation habit, So I think starting off small meditating, you know, just something realistic that you think you could do every day. You know, whether it's 3 minutes, whether it's 2 minutes, even if it's just a minute a day, you know, I think that is good. And then once you've established the habit of meditating every day, then you can start to expand the times. So yeah, that's just generally how I teach it. Because I mean, I think even, I don't know, you hear people that are like, oh, you got to meditate for like 20 minutes and at least, or an hour, or like 45 minutes. And I'm like, that's great. You know, it's good to do that. It's good to, it's if you can, but I just don't think most people can starting out, you know. I just think it's too ambitious. And I think you can gain benefits from just meditating for a minute a day, you know. Yeah. So that's what I say when, particularly when starting out meditating. Thinking you want to do it every day, ideally, but don't beat yourself up if you don't. And you want to set a time that you realistically think that you could do every day, just to build up that habit. Yeah. Cool. Well, oh yeah, the sensory deprivation. I didn't want to touch on that. Yeah, because there is, you know, of course there is such thing as a sensory deprivation tank, and I've never done it. I'd like to. I'd give it a try, for sure. But it was funny that you mentioned that, because I was watching Joe Rogan talk about, he had these two guys, Sam Harris, Dan Harris, not related, but both big proponents of mindfulness meditation. And I like to listen to these, you know, people just to hear how they talk about it. And they were like, so Joe Rogan, do you meditate? And Joe Rogan's like, oh yeah, I meditate. I use a sensory deprivation tank. I'm like, and they're like, okay, well, and they didn't like tell Joe Rogan that he wasn't meditating, but if I was there, I would have been like, no, dude, you're not meditating. That's not, because what they say happens in a sensory deprivation chamber is that, you know, being locked out, you know, with all your senses blocked out, you start hallucinating, basically, after a while. And that's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to hallucinate. We're actually trying to deal with the distractions. I mean, we can't really meditate without, well, I mean, yeah, I'll say it. You can't meditate without the distractions. Like that's what we're dealing with here. Like that is the substance of the practice, is learning how to deal with the distractions. So if you remove all of the distractions, you know, in the form of a sensory deprivation tank, I mean, what those hallucinations that you are experiencing are probably just distractions. They're not like, you know, visions of the true world or anything. It's just that your mind has nothing to deal with, and so they're just throwing crazy visuals at you, you know, because they don't have anything no sensory input is coming in. That's my guess. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. Just based off of my understanding and from meditation, and particularly from this view of meditation, those visualizations and hallucinations that you would experience in a sensory deprivation tank would just be a distraction, ultimately. So, yeah. Sorry. Sorry, Joe Rogan. Sensory deprivation tank, not the same, dude. Yeah. But all right. Thank you all so much for attending the meditation today. It was a little long, but thanks for sticking with me. And again, if you like the content, please like and subscribe to the channel. You know, I am available for private lessons. Even if you just have a question, want to hit me up, you know, even if don't want to do it in the open forum, you know, just shoot me an email. You got my number, shoot me a text. Always happy to talk about meditation. So yeah. Thanks again. I'll see you next week, Tuesday at 2 p.m. All right, take care.